What? Okay. Okay. Now we're ready. Okay, so welcome to our website making crash course on how website making works, and specifically website making with WordPress. Today's agenda will be, I'm not sure if you've noticed, but first we'll be having our presentations about how website making works, website making with WordPress, and our sponsor Gap Solutions with their data privacy. And then lastly, opportunities in Folklucht. Then we'll be having pizza for half an hour and continue with making your first website, comparing it all, get it published. Yeah. So this is our website homepage. You can see we've got a lot of study material for certain subjects and stuff. Yeah, a little bit of. And here's a couple of examples of some of our projects. One for a small business, for a woodworker. We've made websites for student festivals. One for small boat service company. And as you can see here, we've got the this will be the first default website you'll start off with, and later we'll show you how to make this website into your own. So how website making works. Website making can be placed into two main categories, sort of. We've got design and development. Design can be viewed as how you want your website to look, like what colors, what elements, where everything will stand according to each other. And development will be how the website works. It's both of the terms are pretty broad, but you can and should separate the two, as if you first of all think of all its functions and how it should work, it will make it a lot harder to get the design that you actually want through it, since you have to basically sign off of the functions, and you can't. So it's better to start with design. Later we'll continue with how the internet works and how HTML, CSS, and JavaScript works. So the internet can be viewed as a network of networks, right? It basically functions as TCP/IP, TCP being the packages, and IP is the address. So yeah, and your computer sends a TCP package to the host, and the host will take that package, see the request, and then give you back the information to display the web page. So you can view it. So the internet is basically a network of networks connecting computers together, essentially. And so most websites are made out of three. You wouldn't really call them all programming languages, but don't worry about that. We've got HTML, which stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It basically tells the website what elements there are, what pictures, and all that stuff. You got CSS, which stands for Cascading Style Sheets, which decide how the website will look. So what colors, how the elements are supposed to stand in relationship to each other. And lastly, we've got JavaScript, which is a scripting language, and allowing you to create more dynamic content and more advanced stuff. So, websites on the internet. HTTP puts HTML and CSS and JavaScript in and out of the packages, the TCP, if I remember. Yeah, the TCP. And so once your computer sends out those TCPs, as I've explained earlier, the host gets the HTTP thing and then sends the files back, which the client has requested. And yeah, that's how you get access to a website. So when you make your own website, you control the authoritative name system, which controls the DNS, or the domain name system, which turns a domain name into an IP. In other words, say google.com, but which would be the domain name, or Google would be the domain name, and turns it into that long string of numbers, which is called an IP. And some easy words to remember. Hosting providers provide hosting, and domain registrars provide domains. Any questions? No? Okay. So website making with WordPress. WordPress is basically just an open source and free to use web publishing tool. So you make some websites and you get the file, and so you can host it on a hosting service. That's basically what WordPress is. And one important thing to note is that WordPress does fairly often update itself, and each update will usually change a lot of features and a lot of functionality to the app. So it's every update which comes along, you should probably check out what's new and changed. So WordPress allows you to customize the website, manage it, and edit everything within the page. So pages, or rather more correctly, posts are post type. Templates decide how the post types should look, and post types and templates contain blocks. Post types can have taxonomies and attributes, and templates can contain template parts. It's not important for you to actually know what everything means. I mean, it could be an advantage knowing that, but you don't really need it at the start, at the beginning. So if you do follow along, great. Posts and pages are post types. Categories and keywords are actually taxonomies, and hierarchy is an attribute. And I don't know if you've noticed it, but edit site and edit content is two different features. As you can see, there's actually different buttons for each one, even though it sounds like the same. And basically, WordPress is divided into, when you want to add things to a website on WordPress, you got two different features or categories. You've got patterns and blocks. Blocks would be all the paragraphs, headings, lists, quotes, and etc. While patterns are groups of blocks, if that makes sense. And of course, and so the more blocks you use, the bigger the groups, and a lot more oh god, what's it called? And a lot more blocks get added, and so it will be easy to get lost in it, or at least it will make it a lot harder to actually edit it, and so you will eventually need to use a list view, but you'll figure that out once you make your own. To add functionality to WordPress, you got themes and plugins. Themes will modify the templates and global styles and settings. They may also add some functionality, while plugins only add functionality. As you can see here, two completely different things. And if you want to find good themes, you should look for define block themes up in here, since block themes is a more new feature and supports blocks, which, yeah, it just makes the entire thing a lot more easy to customize and everything. And a couple of the plugins we use are these. You've got Fathom, Analytics, Smash Balloon, All-in-One WordPress Migration, User Drive, and Rank Math. And I don't know if you've noticed, but some of them cost money, and one is free. So basically the difference between the paid and the free ones are that the free ones come with some functionality to make your life a little easier, but it is still expected of you to actually put in some put in a lot of the other functionality, which you won't get through free apps. And so we've got also all free plugins usually have, their own paid version of that plugin, where you can either pay once or monthly or whatever they use. And you can use that plugin as many times as you want. Now it's kind of up to you whether or not you want to use a free or a paid plugin. But yeah, it's based on how much effort you want to put in it. If you're part of a big association or a small one for that matter, it's usually, the association usually has a few paid ones which you can use as you're part of the association. And again, you only pay for it once, and you can use them as many times as you like. Any questions? No? Okay, glad you're following along. Now, word from our sponsor.
Now we're talking about GDPR and privacy. So before we get started, why, if I may ask, are you making your own web pages? Anyone? You?
Me?
Yeah, why not?
My mom is selling like alpaca clothing, or she's knitting. So and she's always like wanted one, but she doesn't know how to do it. I don't know how to do it, but now I'm trying to do it for her.
Excellent. So that's, to try to make a business then.
Yeah.
Okay. Any others?
Job.
Job?
Putting a profile together.
As a business or as a CV for
CV.
Promoting yourself?
Yeah.
So it's a personal, private thing more than. Yeah. So business, that's one. Personal promotion is another one. Now GDPR is a legal framework, and I've borrowed definition or some important sentences from the Norwegian Data Protection Agency. I have rewritten it into English. But basically, it says that if you're an organization or a business, not a private individual, but the rest, you have to keep track of all the personal data. Anyone here know what personal data is? Name, address, telephone number, IP address, email address, etc. List is long. Anything that you can directly or indirectly use to identify a person. So if you think about the indirect one, it's sort of huge, it's broad. So if you run a business, you have to know all of those personal data, where it is, why you have it, and you have to get that organized and have an overview of it before you start using it. And you are, as a business, responsible for documenting it and maintaining it up to date. So that's sort of the responsibility of an organization, on a top level, broadly saying. Is that easy? Good. Now, then if you build your website and you start using the personal data, the names, the contact details, for getting prospects, customers, whatever, you are responsible for that data. So you have to know that you collect it, and you have to know who you share it with. And we were chatting just before we started here, some of us, we were talking about how much we love the cookies. Now, cookies is typically the tool that the websites have to sort of communicate what sort of data that your website is collecting and sharing, correctly. Now, so therefore, if you're making a website for selling, knitted stuff, clothing on alpaca stuff, that's a good business. But if you're also going to make money on selling personal data, knowingly or unknowingly, to other websites, that's a risk. You should be very careful. So, or to say the other way around, when you design a web page and when you put in plugins and stuff, make sure you understand what it does. Because if it takes data from that you collect and put it out the back door and share it with all those marketing exchanges or whatever and sell that data, that's your responsibility. So I'll put on a few URLs here, accredited from Pia, a friend of mine on LinkedIn. So if you want to look at your web page or anyone else's web pages, take in some of these, put in the URL or the domain name, and see where it goes. And if you were to do that with VG, the newspaper in Norway, you can see basically it goes here, it goes here, it goes here. So you can safely say it ends up in several of these places. Not everywhere, but several other places based on where it goes here. Questions? Comments? And that was it. So the short version here, if you, want to deal with privacy, want to make web pages, think about the privacy aspect before you go too far, because, as I said, it's your responsibility to make sure that you know where the personal data you collect goes. And that was me.
I have a question. What are some consequences if you fuck up?
Well, very often people are thinking about the fees or the penalties. You can get the financial penalties, and though they can be huge, they're not that frequent, and usually, most companies don't get them. Even though we have a few, reasonably large one in Norway over the last few years. The last one being SATS, I think they got like 10 million NOK for not responding when asked by some individuals, what data do you store on my behalf, and a few other issues. I think the huge one that just came recently was the latest Meta, and the number is so big I can't even remember. Was it?
It's big.
Billions.
Not too big.
Yeah, well, it was huge. So there is a risk, but more it's a reputational risk. Yeah, so if you get caught and people stop doing business with you, or as some of the reactions from the Data Protection Agency haven't fined the businesses, but they have said stop doing this processing. So if you think that your web page is a web shop and the only thing you do there is sell, and then you do it wrong, so that someone says it's illegal and ban you for using it, that stops your business, and that could be much more expensive than the fee. So those are a few examples. Other questions? And then a name from the sponsor. The sponsor is Gap Solutions. Sorry, I was pushing the wrong one.
Sorry, but how do you know that you have the right information, or how do you know where the data is going?
Well, I think
That's a good question.
this is part of what, if you put the URL or the web address of the business that or the web homepage that you made, or some other page, you just stick it in there, and then these are various tools to explain to you where it goes, what it finds and where it puts it. So some of them will show, it doesn't go anywhere, it only stays on your pages, and everything is hunky-dory and absolutely green. And others are full of leak. Yeah. And these are in the presentation, so you can use them when you download the presentation later. Yes.
Sometimes when you go to websites and it asks you do you want to allow us to collect data or something, and then if you accept that, does that usually mean that they can sell your information?
No, it doesn't mean they can sell it, unless that's what they say. I mean, so if you then do accept all and don't read it, then I don't know what's behind it. But if you go into the background of it and ask, find out what they're saying they're doing, then you should be able to say yes, yes, no, no, yes, no, and then depending on how they do it. But if they say that we share this with our partners and everywhere in the world, that means they share it. It doesn't necessarily say they sell it, because it's not a question of how much or little money they have. It's just a question of who they share it with. But if you don't want your data to go to everywhere in the world, then you should be more diligent and go in and say, no, I don't want you to use this.
But it's so much, because every single website is you have to go in and read, and
yep.
So I don't know, maybe just define everything.
That's the paradox, because as a business or an organization, you have to obey by this. But then most of us as individuals on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Twitter, or whatever, it away. So it's a paradox. But it's a good observation.
But if you, like for example, if you have a website that's just as a CV, then you probably don't need to collect anything. Then I guess you don't have to think about it.
That is true that the less data you collect, the less you have to think about it. But then the question is, what is a little and what is nothing? So with Moz, so if you have then a web page with your CV, if I then hit that URL, what would you know about me? Absolutely everything or absolutely nothing? That, you don't expect me to log into your web page to see your CV, But will you capture my IP address? Or you don't know?
If you use Google Analytics to get statistics, they will capture more than you have to. That's not nothing. It's a little bit if you get statistics on your site. So,
and then maybe there's a little Facebook thing on there.
if you embed a YouTube video, then it's gonna act like as if you visited YouTube. Which is why lots of YouTube videos don't work if you don't accept the cookies. So you have to think every time you put something on your website, if you want to be 100% clean, good to go with data privacy, you have to read the fine print and know what you're doing.
Particularly if you start off with a basic web page and I need it to be a little more fancy. I put a few of these cool plugins in there. Pretty much, I will guarantee that several of those plugins, and particularly the more they are free, the more they will like to enjoy and live with you and capture the data that you put through there in some fashion. So read the fine print. That was a lot on GDPR and privacy. We're finished with that. Opportunities, Elliot, it's your turn.
Thank you. Okay, so we've got opportunities at Folkeliggjort. There are a couple of opportunities for helping out the association. We've got, you can be an editor, contributor, making websites for paid members, improving the study platform, improving the website making course, says improving our social events, improving this association as a whole, taking responsibility for the part of the association. So it can be membership, get a membership and be part of the community. And then, yeah, as an editor, you get to change this part in red here about yourself. And as a contributor, you can contribute with files through websites. Yes. Any questions?
I have a question.
Okay.
What is Folkeliggjort?
Oh God. Folkeliggjort is a student organization for giving students, or an organization giving students agency in higher education and helping students change to their everyday study and higher education. Yes?
I have a question. Does it cost anything to be a member, and what does it mean to be a member?
It costs nothing, and to be a member, you get to what's it called again? You get access to all the resources, plugins, and everything.
Yes.
Thanks.
And if you don't want to make your website yourself and you still want to be a member, can you pay?
Yes, you can pay. You can pay for us to make your website if you want a website. Anything else? Okay. So yeah, pizza.